After relocating from Kansas City to California, Christina was eager to settle into her new home and focus on her studies. Pursuing her third degree in geology, she anticipated a peaceful environment conducive to her academic endeavors. However, she soon discovered that her new neighbors were less than considerate, and their actions would test her patience and resourcefulness in unexpected ways. In her previous living situations, Christina had her fair share of neighborly nuisances, but had always managed to navigate them without significant conflict. This time, she hoped for the best as she moved into a house with roommates who, like her, valued respect and harmony. They share an understanding of each other's quirks, schedules, and personal spaces, which made for a pleasant living arrangement. The housemates were grateful for this rare compatibility and had renewed their lease agreements annually, enjoying 3 years of peaceful cohabitation. Their tranquil existence began to shift when a group of undergraduate students moved into the house next door. Christina was initially cautious, aware that younger students might have different lifestyles that could disrupt the quiet she cherished. To her relief, the newcomers seemed considerate at first, and life continued without major disturbances. She and her roommates felt they might have dodged the typical issues that come with having college students as neighbors. However, this calm was short-lived. The undergraduates started hosting frequent and noisy parties, a common occurrence among students experiencing newfound independence. Christina understood that social gatherings were part of college life, but the situation escalated when their guests began to infringe on her property. One evening, she noticed that a car belonging to one of the party attendees was blocking her driveway, preventing her from leaving. Determined to handle the matter amicably, Christina approached her neighbors. She politely requested that they ensure their guests did not block her driveway and even left a note as a gentle reminder. The next morning, the car was gone, but in its place was a large boulder obstructing her vehicle. Confused and frustrated, she realized that this was not a random occurrence but a deliberate act. The boulder was not just any rock. It had been part of a makeshift barrier the neighbors used to protect their fence from errant drivers due to the limited parking space during their parties. While the idea of safeguarding their property was understandable, moving the boulder to block Christina's driveway was both inconsiderate and provocative. She attempted to discuss the issue with her neighbors by knocking on their door, but they did not respond. Unable to move the hefty boulder on her own, Christina sought assistance to relocate it back to its original position. She hoped this would be the end of the problem, but her neighbors' actions soon escalated from careless to outright disrespectful. After another one of their late-night parties, she woke up to find the boulder once again obstructing her car. This time, it was clear that they had moved it intentionally to retaliate against her reasonable request not to block her in. The situation had become intolerable. Christina realized that simply moving the boulder back each time was not a sustainable solution, especially since her neighbors showed no signs of changing their behavior. They seemed to underestimate her, perhaps assuming that her petite stature meant she wouldn't stand up to them. What they didn't account for was her expertise and access to tools that could turn the tables entirely. As a geologist specializing in volcanology and working towards her PhD, Christina had access to professional equipment designed to break down rocks. Among these tools was a powerful auto chipper, capable of drilling through and pulverizing stone efficiently. She decided it was time to teach her inconsiderate neighbors a lesson they wouldn't forget. Donning protective gloves, earmuffs, and safety goggles, she fired up the loud auto chipper. The machine roared to life, its noise echoing through the quiet morning and undoubtedly disturbing her neighbors who were likely sleeping off their festivities from the night before. For 4 hours, Christina worked diligently, methodically reducing the boulder to a pile of rubble. The task required focus and determination, but she was fueled by a sense of justified retribution. She listened to music through her headphones, channeling her frustration into productivity. With each piece of stone that broke away, she felt a growing satisfaction. Not only was she removing the obstacle that had caused her so much trouble, but she was also sending a clear message to her neighbors about the consequences of their actions. Once the boulder was completely demolished, Christina swept the debris and, in a final act of poetic justice, returned the rubble to her neighbor's side of the fence. Her point made, she retreated to her home to enjoy a well-deserved cup of tea. The morning was peaceful once again, and she felt a sense of accomplishment and relief. Christina shared her experience on Twitter, documenting the events and her solution to the problem. Her initial intention was simply to update her friends and perhaps amuse a few fellow geologists with her unconventional approach. However, her story resonated with a much larger audience than she anticipated. Many people were curious about the backstory and why her neighbors had resorted to such petty behavior. Christina engaged with the commenters, providing explanations and maintaining a tone of wry humor. When asked if she had any prior issues with them, she replied sarcastically, "Sadly, yes. I am the evil lady who requests that if they have a party and people park in the driveway, they move the cars by 7 a.m. so I can get out. I'm a horrid person." Some suggested that she should have started the noisy work even earlier, while others applauded her for staying within legal noise ordinance hours. Christina's story struck a chord with many who had dealt with similar neighborly disputes and found her method of resolution both effective and entertaining. As the story gained traction, Christina reflected on the unexpected attention. She was surprised by how many people found her actions relatable and humorous. Beyond the amusement, she hoped that sharing her experience might inspire others, particularly young women, to pursue careers in science. If nothing else, her story showcased the practical applications of geological expertise in everyday life. In the aftermath of the incident, Christina observed a noticeable change in her neighbors' behavior. They appeared more subdued, and when she encountered them, their reactions ranged from sheepish nods to wide-eyed looks that suggested they now viewed her with a newfound respect, or perhaps caution. She mused that they had reached a mutual understanding, one where her boundaries would be acknowledged moving forward. The online community continued to engage with her, sharing their own stories of difficult neighbors and creative solutions. Christina's tale became a viral example of standing up for oneself in a clever and lawful manner. It highlighted how knowledge and skills can empower individuals to handle challenging situations effectively. Meanwhile, Christina returned to her studies, grateful for the return to normalcy. The incident had been a distraction, but it also provided a memorable anecdote and an opportunity to connect with others. She continued to focus on her research, undisturbed by further antics from next door. Her story also sparked discussions about neighborly etiquette and the importance of respecting shared spaces. It served as a reminder that considerate communication is key to harmonious living, especially in communities with diverse residents. Christina's initial attempts to address the issue politely had been ignored, but her decisive action ultimately led to a resolution. In the broader context, Christina's experience underscores how individuals can assert their rights and address grievances without resorting to hostility or unlawful behavior. By using her professional skills and adhering to local regulations, she not only solved her immediate problem, but also set an example of responsible and effective conflict resolution. The episode concluded with Christina enjoying the peace she had worked to restore. Her neighbors, likely reflecting on the consequences of their actions, seemed to adopt a more respectful attitude. While the path to this outcome had been unconventional, it proved successful. Christina's story remains a testament to the power of wit, expertise, and perseverance. It illustrates that sometimes the best way to handle a rocky situation is to face it head-on, with the right tools and a strategic approach. Her actions demonstrated that being underestimated can be turned into an advantage, especially when one leverages their unique skills. In the end, Christina hoped that her experience would encourage others to pursue their passions and stand up for themselves when necessary. She continued to share insights from her work in geology and volcanology, fostering interest in the sciences. If her story inspired even a few people to explore these fields or to handle their own challenges with creativity and confidence, she considered that a worthwhile outcome. As for her neighbors, it's safe to assume they thought twice before causing any more disturbances. The memory of the early morning rock demolition likely served as a deterrent to future mischief. Christina's message was clear: respect is a two-way street, and underestimating someone based on appearances can lead to unexpected and noisy consequences. With tranquility restored, Christina looked forward to continuing her studies and enjoying the simple pleasures of her home. The boulder, once a symbol of her neighbors' inconsideration, had been reduced to dust, much like the tension that had briefly disrupted her life. It was a satisfying conclusion to a challenging chapter, one that left her with a good story and a reinforced sense of self-assurance. Through this experience, Christina demonstrated that intelligence and poise could overcome pettiness, and that sometimes the best response is one that is both lawful and cleverly calculated. Her tale serves as inspiration for anyone facing similar frustrations, showing that with the right approach, it's possible to turn a problematic situation into a triumph.